Hey peeps, it's LaVeeda Monroe from What Can't LaVeeda Do? This is part 2 of a 2-part video on how to copy a store-bought garment, and in particular a dress. So in the first video, I made a pattern from an existing dress that I had, and in this video, I will actually sew those pieces together to make the actual dress. So I hope you watched the first one. I hope you liked it. I hope you got your pattern ready, because now we're going to put the dress together. But what I didn't mention in the first video, which I should really emphasize, is that make sure that the garment you're copying fits. If it doesn't fit, the pattern that you make for the dress that you want to make is not going to fit. So make sure it fits to your liking. If not, you can probably customize it in a new pattern that you're making and make it your own. So enough talking, let's start sewing. And thanks for watching. Okay, so I'm assuming that you have all your pattern pieces ready. So now what I did off camera was I laid my fabric out right sides together. And when I say right side, I mean the side that people will see. This is the right side, and it's an obvious difference between the right side and the wrong side. The right side is brighter, more vibrant, and the wrong side is faded out. Now there's some fabrics you won't be able to tell at all what the right side and the wrong side is. So just use your best judgment, pick the best of the sides, and just go with it. So now, yes, the fabric is folded hot dog style, meaning that the width of the fabric is folded in a hot dog, so it's long and narrow, and the rest of the fabric is flowing off the edge of the cutting table. So now get our pattern pieces, and it doesn't matter which one you start with. So this is actually, I can fold this fabric now. We can actually have our pattern pieces like this, with the one pattern piece on the fold, meaning that it won't have a center seam, and then the other piece alongside of it. But if you do it this way, there will be a seam going down the back of your dress, and because this fabric has a pattern, the pattern will be interrupted. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to refold this fabric so that I can possibly take advantage of the widthness of the fabric. I don't even know if that's a word. But this fabric is pretty wide, and as you can see, I can put both pattern pieces alongside one another. But I'm going to fold it in such a way that both pattern pieces will be on a fold, and it won't have a visible seam down the front or the back. So hold on, and let me refold this fabric. Okay, so what I've done is I folded the fabric in such a way that I'm not wasting a bunch of fabric on that side. So what I'm going to do, what I did was folded one side of the fabric enough to accommodate the width of this pattern. So right now it's on a fold, meaning that once I cut it out and open it out, it's one continuous piece and it doesn't have a seam line going down the center of the front. So this side is good. So let me fold that side so I can get the back pattern piece right next to it. Okay, everything feels good, so let's see if we have enough width to accommodate that second pattern. And we do! Yes, Lord. Okay, so now the center back is along this fold, so once I open the fabric, it will be one continuous piece. So now, let's pin everything down. Okay, everything's pinned. So now we're going to cut out. So first I'm just going to cut straight across to get rid of this weight of the fabric that's hanging over the edge. And I'm using a rotary cutter. Okay, now so we're going to cut on the outside, the armhole, the shoulder seam, and the neckline. You do not cut this edge over here on the fold. So this is the neckline. And take your time if you're using a rotary cutter. And save these pieces, because you can always piece stuff together to make another garment or to enhance some other garments that you have. Or like myself, make some Barbie doll clothes. But if the pieces are too small, just throw them away. That piece is done. I'm going to fold up and move out the way. Now let's get this piece. And try not to move it. Just cut it exactly where it is, or else everything would just get distorted. Alright, front and the back piece are cut. So I'm going to fold that, move it out the way. So now let's refold the fabric so we can cut out the sleeve. So this is such a beautiful fabric. And I still have plenty left to make something else. Maybe I'll make a little jumpsuit once I get rid of my belly. So let's see. It doesn't matter which way we lay this fabric because the pattern isn't going in any one particular direction. Now this is, let me fold this out. Let me take a look just to make sure. So the direction of the print, which are roses, we have this set of roses is pointing up this way. This set of roses is pointing both north and south. This is pointing north, south, east, west. So there's no particular direction in this print. So to save fabric, let me see. And because this is a four-way stretch, meaning it stretches this way and it stretches this way, I can lay the pattern any direction. So I guess either way I lay the fabric, I'm not gonna save any fabric, so I'll just stay with, let's see. Yeah, let's just go with this. Just make sure everything is smooth. Get my pins. Oh, and I definitely want to mark the center seam. So let me get my Sharpie. I'm at the center of the sleeve because you want the center of the sleeve to align with your shoulder seam. And I'll show you that as we're sewing. So I'm just going to make a mark there. And I'm going to cut a V out in a fabric so that I know that's the center of the sleeve. Okay. So make sure we have enough fabric all the way around. And go ahead and pin. So we'll be cutting 2 sleeves. The other front and back piece, we only cut 1 sleeve, but it's on a fold. So once you unfold it, it'll be 1 whole front and 1 whole back. So with the sleeves, you actually have to cut 2 pieces. Why? Because you have 2 arms. Right? pin and it's nice and flat. So let's go ahead and cut it out. Let's see, I think I'm going to use shears for this one. Make sure your fabric is in place. So once I get to the center of the seam, I'm going to cut a V shape so that it's clearly visible. Excuse me. And I'll show you that when I begin sewing. I hope it stays in focus while I'm over here. Okay, there's the sleeve, and there's the V. Okay, let me clear this table off and put this dress together. Stay tuned. Okay, so I folded up my fabric nice and neat. And so now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to remove all the pins and remove the pattern from the fabric. Again, there's only 3 pieces to this dress. The front and the back and the sleeve. So let me remove the pins. And I'll show you how I store my pattern pieces after the video, or after we make the dress. Okay, all the pins have been removed. And what I want to do now, well, let me unfold the fabrics. So this is your back. This is your back piece. And how do I know it's my back piece? Because the neckline is high. You got a high neckline there. And remember how I told you that before, once you fold this fabric out and you fold it on a fold, there's no visible seam down the back. There's just one continuous pattern, which is so much flatter when you have a busy pattern like this. Always cut patterns on the fold. Okay, these are sleeves, and this is the front. And how do I know this is the front? Because it has a scoop neckline. So jersey fabric doesn't ravel, meaning that you won't see threads coming out. But I always like to finish my edges on all of my garments. I like to finish my edges on all of my garments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to serge all of the edges on the back piece, the front piece. And I'm going to serge along the hemline and the side seams of my sleeves. But I'm going to save serging the sleeve cap until I've inserted the sleeve into the dress, because I don't want to lose my V, which marks the center of the sleeve, which coincides to the center of the shoulder seam. So sit tight and let me move you over to my machines. Okay, got all my pattern pieces here. So now, like I said, I'm going to finish off all of the seams of all of the pieces. So as you can see, it's just a raw edge right now. And I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. So I'm not going to talk, so just enjoy the music. Okay, so I've serged all of the raw edges. So as you can see, I don't know if you can see that. Give it a time. Give it some time to focus. There we go. So this prevents the raw edges from shredding and it extending into the garment. If you do not have a serger, what you can use are a pair of peeking shears, which has a zigzag edge, and what it does is get a piece of fabric. It creates V's on the seam line so that the fabric won't ravel. And this is just as good as a serger. It doesn't look professional, but it does the job. And if you're starting out, get a pair of peeking shears if you can't afford a serger. Let me do it this way. Okay, give it time to focus. Maybe it won't. But anyway, there's a zigzag edge right there if you can see it. If I hold it up to my shirt, you see the zigzag edge. Okay, so I have the back piece to do in the 2 sleeves, so I'm going to cut the camera off and do that off camera, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I have all my pattern pieces, the raw edges serged, and so now what I'm going to do, and I've also pressed them flat, because when you serge your raw edges they crinkle up, or they'll curl up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin the front to the back. And you put the fabric right sides together. And I'm going to pin the shoulder seams, the 2 shoulder seams, and the 2 side seams. Okay, so now, as you can see, the side seams are pinned, the side seam is pinned, the side seam is pinned, and both shoulder seams are pinned together. So it's starting to look like a dress, isn't it? Okay, let's move on to my sewing machine. Okay, we're over here at my sewing machine. So now, like I said, over at the cutting table, I'm going to sew the shoulder sheen. So I'm going to sew the shoulder seams. You have two. And I'm going to sew the two side seams together. And when you're sewing or working with stretch jersey, take your time. Some people sew with a short zigzag stitch. I'm going to use a straight stitch, but I'm going to pull the fabric slightly so that if there's some stretch on the seam won't pop. So the stitch has to be as stretchy as the fabric. Otherwise the seam will pop and people are going to see all your goodies. So either use a short zigzag stitch or pull the fabric slightly to elongate the stitches. And again, I'm using a 5/8 inch seam allowance because that's what I added when I made the pattern. So enjoy the music while I sew. Okay, so we have our two shoulder seams sewn together, and we have both of our side seams sewn together. So now I'm going to go to my ironing board and press these seams open so that on the outside it looks professional. It won't be a bumpy seam. So I will see you. Oh, let me think. So while I'm at the ironing board, I'm gonna press these seams open, and then I'm also going to hem the edge. So I'm gonna do maybe a 1/2 inch seam, and then I'm also going to do a 1/2 inch seam along the neckline. So I'm gonna press that at the ironing board, and then I'm gonna come back and stitch it in place. So see you when I get back. Okay, so I'm at my ironing board, and I just wanted to show you the inside of the dress. So this is what I meant when I said that I'm pressing the seams open. So when you sew them, they're sandwiched together like that. You press them open like this and flat. It gives it a more professional look both inside and outside of the garment. And this is my 1/2 inch hem that I pressed in. So you see how good the inside looks? You want your inside of any garment that you sew to look just as good on the inside as it does on the outside. You know, take your time with it. It's like, okay, I'll focus in a second. It's like wearing lingerie underneath your work suit or your sweatsuit. Nobody knows it's there, but you feel sexy as hell, you know? And when the inside of your garment looks good, you're going to feel good. You're going to feel proud that you made this garment. So take your time with it. Okay, we're back at my sewing machine. So what I'm going to do first is sew down the neckline that I pressed over at the what you call that thing, the ironing board. I pressed down my seam allowance, which is about a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then I'm gonna stitch it down flat. So this will be the edge of my neckline that I'm finishing. The dress is almost done, y'all. I tell you, it doesn't take long at all to make a cute little maxi dress. So listen to the music as I sew this neckline. Okay, so the hemline is done. So I'm going to go to my ironing station and press down the hems so they're nice and neat and flat. So when I come back, we're going to insert the sleeves Well, first we're going to hem the sleeves. So while I'm over there at the, let me bend down. So while I'm over there at my pressing station, I'm going to press down the hem and the neckline of the dress, and I'm also going to press down the hem of the sleeves. So once we get back to this thing here, this sewing machine, we're going to pin the sleeve in, we're going to sew the sleeve in, we're going to serge the edges on the inside, give it a final press, and the dress is done. Okay, I'll see you in a second. Okay, so I pressed my dress, which is laying on my cutting table, and then I pressed the hem of my sleeve. So that's about a 1/2 inch hem as well. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch this hem down, and then once the hem is stitched down, then I'm going to sew the 2 side seams together, and it'll be just like that. So enjoy the music. There's a sleeve. There's one sleeve rather. So now I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other sleeve. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my pressing station and press this seam open. And I'm also going to press down the hem. And when I get back, we're going to attach the sleeve to the dress. Okay, see you in a bit. Okay peeps, I'm back. The hemline is pressed. So now we're going to insert the sleeves into our dress. So turn the sleeves outside, well, to the right side, so that the right side is showing. Let me get the dress. And now here, for your experienced sewers, we don't need to be concerned about which side of the sleeve is the front or back. We're just going to ease it in. So right now this is the shoulder seam. We're going to find that V that I cut at the top of the sleeve, which indicates the center of the sleeve. And there it is. Let me flip it this way. There it is right there. So I'm going to pin right sides together, meaning that's the right side. And then I'm going to stick the sleeve in there. So I'm going to line this V at the top of the sleeve directly on the center of the shoulder seam. And I'm going to pin. Pin that in place. So when you're working with sleeves, you want to pin onto, you want to make sure that the garment is facing you and the sleeve is down against the sewing machine. That way the sewing machine with the feed dogs will ease that sleeve into the sleeve hole, because normally the sleeve is larger than the armhole and you have to ease it in with rows of stitches. And with this, we don't need those easing stitches. We're just going to put it right in. So I have the shoulder seam pinned to the center of the, or the top of the sleeve. So now I'm going to pin the side seam underarm, I'm going to pin the side seam of the dress to the side seam of the sleeve. And you want to make sure those seam lines are right on top of each other. So now the key points are pinned together, the top of the shoulder and underneath the underarm. So now you just take your time and fill in the gaps. So you're going to pin the rest of the sleeve to the garment. So listen to some music while I take my time and pin. Okay, so we have the sleeve all pinned in. And use as many pins as you need to, because you don't want it to shift as you sew. So I'm going to cut the camera off while I pin the other sleeve on the other side, and then we'll come back when it's time to sew. Okay peeps, so I have both of my sleeves pinned in. So now let's sew them in. So once I get started, I'm going to let you guys do what? Listen to some music. So let me take this off so that I can get my sleeve up in there nice and neat. Okay, again, the sleeve is against the sewing machine so that whatever extra fullness is there, the sewing machine will ease it on in for a smooth finish. Okay, so listen to the music while I sew these sleeves in. Okay, so I'm going to insert the other sleeve off camera, and when I'm done, we'll serge the inside seam, give it a final press, sew in my label, and then the dress is done. Okay, so I'm going to sew my label in. So I think that's about the center. Where do you guys order your labels from? I want some really professional looking labels made at a reasonable price, of course. So put in the comments where you have your labels made. Hook the sister up. Voila. So I'm going to go give it a final press, put it on the dress form, and maybe I'll put it on. I don't have any place to go, but I'll put it on, take some pictures, and put it in the video. So see you in a little bit. Okay, this is how I store my paper patterns. Either the PDF patterns that I download or the patterns that I draft myself. So with the hole puncher, I punch a hole at the top of the pattern pieces, of all the pattern pieces. Then I use a D-ring to secure them all together. And I got these boxes, this box of rings from Amazon. And then I hang them on a hanger. That way the pattern stays nice and flat, and you don't have to concern yourself about ironing them each time you need to use them. So I have about 3 or 4 sets of patterns on this one hanger. I want to buy some hooks, but the hooks are so expensive. So I think I'm out of focus. So I just use the hangers that I already have, and these back here are actually paper clips. Those are paper clips right there. So, and then the patterns are hanging on my garment rack right there. So that's how I store my patterns.